Hi, welcome to part two. Yeah, be sure to watch this video first. Did Peter have time to build a local church in Antioch and go to Rome to be Pope with role he's given? I'm limited in number of characters I can put in the title. I'm not able to add part one to this, into the lettering. So for this video, I'm just going to call it Did Peter have enough time, part two. But this is really part one, okay? So be sure to watch that first. So one thing that I did not mention, I talked about how there's just no way Peter had time to be doing that. That was not his role. So if we look at Matthew chapter 10, verse 23, but when they persecute you, now Jesus talking to disciples, in this city flee ye to another. For verily I say unto you, you shall not go over the city of Israel until the Son of Man be come. So they were busy going through the cities of Israel. They're not building churches. They're preaching the gospel, binding and loosing, just like Matthew 16 and 18. So this part confuses a lot of people, Son of Man come. We need to look at it from the Jewish perspective to understand what they were really actually talking about. What we hear today, this idea of bodily return to the earth and all that, that's not what they're talking about. If we go back to the Old Testament, and you have access to this in the description below, by the way, called Old Covenant Judgment Coming PDF. So if you look, I have highlighted in red the actual verses pertaining within each chapter they're coming. And I encourage you to read the entire chapter. And this is historical amongst the Jewish people during the Old Testament times. It was basically where God poured his wrath on a nation, okay, where he created a situation for a physical entity to come along and execute judgment for them. So in the case of the first century, what's being talked about here was the Roman army went in and destroyed the temple. Alrighty. So so the sign of the Son of Man actually occurred on May 2nd of AD 66. So let's see here. And you'll have access to this timeline below. So let's see, 66, May. Okay, so better right around here. There we go. Alrighty, so May 2nd of AD 66, okay? And Josephus eyewitness to that. Alrighty, so that was right here. That's when the sign occurred in the sky that Jesus talked about, and it was a 7-year judgment. Okay, from there all the way to the last day, their last day of the house of Israel. So if we scroll over here, move this to the other side. As I point out, Peter wrote in 1 Peter 4:7, but the end of all things at hand. Now, he's not talking about just only destruction of the temple would mark the end of the age, but he's talking about the end of all things, okay? In the Olivet Discourse, they were not talking so much about the gathering or the lawless one, the destruction of the last enemy, okay? They weren't talking about that in the Olivet Discourse. They were only talking about the context of destruction of the temple. All right, which happened which was finished off during this time right here. Alrighty, but Peter said the end of all things. Okay, the point I'm trying to make here is Peter was focused all the way to the end, the house of Israel. All right, keep in mind he was an apostle to the Jews, not Gentiles. All right, Galatians chapter 2 verse 7. The gospel of the circumcision, the Jews, was under Peter. Alrighty, so he was that way all the way to the end. So he could not have possibly ran off to Rome to be a pope. It does not fit the biblical narrative. It does not fit his role. It'd be such a huge character flaw. I cannot stress that enough. If he just took off on them and went off to Rome, wow. I mean, you got all this history consolidated in that 40-year period, the final generation of the Old Covenant, of the, not Old Covenant, but of the house of Israel, their final days, and he would just take off on them, to areas that he doesn't even speak their language, and and Paul pointed out, that Christ had the body, not Peter. So this Colossians is written around year 62, about 33 years after the conversation Matthew 16:18. So Paul did not interpret it that way. And I had one Catholic apologist say, well, he referred to him as the rock. No, he didn't. The Greek is a rock or a stone. There's a difference between the rock versus a rock. Okay, that slight difference changes everything. And so we have to be, that's an example of eisegesis when somebody does that. Because he's holding on to a preconceived false paradigm and he's molding the scriptures around that, which is why he's changing it from a rock to the rock. That slight little change changes everything. Let's see here. Yeah. I think that's pretty much all I have. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you look at this verse, they were busy. Peter did not have time to be going to build a church, and it did not fit with his role at all, what he was doing. Again, Matthew 19, he's the judge of 12 tribes of Israel. He didn't have time to go build a church in Antioch. Was he in Antioch? Yeah, according to Scripture, he was in Antioch. But he was not building a church yet. He was actually fulfilling this role right here. When they persecute in this city, flee it to another. For if they say to you, you should not have gone over the city of Israel till the Son of Man come. Alrighty. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. Yeah, so that's the problem when people read history. They're sticking their necks out for being vulnerable to rewritten history or problems with history, believing it in their head to be true, and then they bring that with them into the scriptures, and then you're doing what's called eisegesis. So let's let me end right with this here. Eisegesis, what is it? Eisegesis is the process of interpreting text in such a way as to induce one's own presupposition, agendas, or biases. This is so common today. It doesn't matter whether you're Orthodox, Roman Catholic, whether you're Protestant. This is such a common problem today, more prevalent than we think. All right? Because we have all these ideas that enter our heads, and we bring up with us into the scriptures, and then we're no longer getting the author's intent. That's why I try to emphasize hermeneutics on the channel. I like to use the check valve analogy, where you got pipeline and a check valve, water flows only one direction. It should be that same way with the Bible. Let information flow in one direction only. If you have an assumption, treat it as an assumption and don't run with it. Just stop there. Maybe do further study. More light will come to you. Okay. But if we follow the rule of hermeneutics that I have, you're going to get far. Guarantee you. So anyway, this is so common. Roman Catholicism is largely based on eisegesis. Alrighty? I can't stress that enough. I love to debate your top Roman Catholic apologists and point out to them how they're doing eisegesis over and over and over again. I'll have a public debate any minute. It's something they don't realize they're doing over and over again. It's the same problem with Orthodoxy as well. And then it's common in Protestantism too. Okay, but within Protestantism, you're going to find some people who are doing less eisegesis than others. Okay, so anyway, that's all I have. So. Yeah, so did Peter have time to run off to Rome? Did it even fit his role? Did he have time to be a pope there? Did he have time to build a church, a local church? It takes time to do something like that. That was not his role. He's one of the 12 apostles. That was just not their role. You will not find a single of the 12 apostles building a church. It was only Paul. He was the only one who was building churches. Alrighty. All right, well, thank you. The rest of them, again, they were doing this right here. All right, I can't make it any more clear. So, all right. Anyway, that's all I have. So you have an awesome day. Thank you.